What a great time to be in our great province of Saskatchewan, and thank you so very much for joining us today. Just a few short days, the people of Saskatchewan are going to have the opportunity to make a choice. I would say it's a very important choice. In fact, what we're seeing is people of this province are making that choice today. Polls are open. Ballot already. They've already made their choice, and I've seen the early reports, and let me say thank you to each and every one of you in this room. They're showing up in big numbers to those polling locations, and they're showing up across the province. We were in Prince Albert yesterday. They're showing up there. They're showing up in Moose Jaw. They're showing up in Regina. They're showing up in Saskatoon. And I would believe, and I say this, that the choice before those very Saskatchewan voters has never been more clear than it is today. You have the opportunity, we collectively have the opportunity to choose between the NDP, with their record of decline, loss, and closure. Or you can choose a strong economy and a bright future with this party, your party, the Saskatchewan Party. More people, more jobs, more opportunities. In fact, over 17,000 jobs were created just this past year alone in our province. That is one new job being created each and every 30 minutes in the province. And you can choose to keep that record and keep that opportunity going, or we can go back to what it was like under the NDP, where I would say there was also one job that was created every 30 minutes. The challenge was that job was created in Alberta, and our kids, our children, our students had to move to Alberta to get that job. That is why you see a Saskatchewan party that is running on the record that we have. Jobs right here in Saskatchewan, and you see the NDP that are actively running away from the record that they have. They want you to forget that they closed hospitals and then fired the doctors and nurses that were offering the services in those very facilities. They want you to forget that they closed 176 schools across this province. They closed a school for every month that they had the honor to serve as the provincial government in this province, and then they fired the teachers that were working in those very schools. They want you to forget the very tooth-jarring experience that Saskatchewan residents and family had when we attempted to drive down our highways. They want you to forget the fact that under an NDP government in this province, the PST was at 9%, our income taxes were higher than they are today, and there was threats of property tax revolts in community after community. But we remember, and Saskatchewan voters most certainly we remember, and they don't ever want to go back to what it was like under the NDP. If you want to continue to grow our Saskatchewan economy, if you want to continue to provide that opportunity for our children and that next generation, our future, to stay here, then you need to choose the Saskatchewan Party. You need to choose our strong team of Saskatchewan Party candidates, and right now I want to ask them to join me on stage, starting with right here from Moose Jaw North, Tim McLeod. We have Megan Patterson from Moose Jaw, Wacoma. And surrounding the city of Moose Jaw, Blaine McLeod from Lumsden Morris. The tall man with the great voice. We have Barrett Croft from Dakota Arm River. All the way from the southeastern part of this province, I believe Daryl Harrison is here somewhere. He's here. And no stranger to anyone in this province is my friend and our candidate in Wood River, Dave Merritt. Cypress Hills, we have Doug Steele that has joined us here today from the southwest. Right from the southeast to the southwest corner of the province. So yes, I would say that the opportunity and the choice for Saskatchewan people this election has never been so clear. There is a significant difference between the two parties that can form government in Saskatchewan, and that's why you see your party, the Saskatchewan Party, putting forward a platform that has 3/4 of that platform is commitments to tax reduction or tax credits for Saskatchewan families, which means that you are going to have more money that is going to stay in your pocket so that you can decide what to do with that money. And you contrast this with the NDP's multi-billion-dollar promises that they have put out that are all about increasing government spending. They want to take more of your money because they think they know better than you on how to spend it. And that's the choice that Saskatchewan voters have at this election. A Saskatchewan party, your Saskatchewan party, that wants to leave more money in your pocket for you to spend versus an NDP that wants to take more money out of your pocket so that they can spend it. And I would say this, you do have a choice in this election between the Saskatchewan party who has stood against the Trudeau carbon tax since the very first day it was introduced, or the NDP who always have and continue to this day to support that Trudeau NDP carbon tax. You have a choice between a Saskatchewan party who wants to grow the economy or the NDP who just simply want to grow government. You have a choice between the Saskatchewan party who wants to give a hand up to those that may have slipped into a life of addictions by providing recovery opportunities in our province and in our communities, or the NDP, by very contrast, simply want to hand out drugs in our communities. It's a choice between the Saskatchewan party that is hiring more police officers to keep your community and your family safe, or the NDP who has said that they will cut those very police officers and offer to buy you a doorbell camera. You have a choice between the Saskatchewan party that has a record of hiring doctors and nurses in community after community across this province, or the NDP who have a record of firing those very doctors and nurses. Between a Saskatchewan party who has kept our young people in Saskatchewan and continues to work towards providing that opportunity so that our children and our future and our young people in our communities continue to have that opportunity to stay in a Saskatchewan community, or the NDP who actively drove them away from our province. Between a Saskatchewan party that is building schools, building hospitals, and building highways, or an NDP who closed those very schools in our province, they closed the hospitals in our province, and they told Saskatchewan people to go out and fix their own highways. You have a choice between a Saskatchewan party that will keep our economy strong and our future ever so bright, or the NDP who will take Saskatchewan back to a time of decline, loss, and closures. So I would say this to the people of Moose Jaw. If you want to continue to see investments like a F.H. Wigmore new hospital in this community that services not only the people that live in Moose Jaw, but the people in the surrounding area. If you want to see continuous investment into a new elementary school right here in the community of Moose Jaw, if you want to see investment into keeping your community and your family safe by investing in additional police officers in the city of Moose Jaw, if you want to have your children and grandchildren stay in Moose Jaw and stay in our province of Saskatchewan so that they can succeed in Saskatchewan, if you want real investment in healthcare and education, if you want safer communities and neighborhoods, if you want more money in you and your family's pockets, if you want a government that will defend and promote Saskatchewan's interests not only on the national stage but on the international stage, if you want a strong economy and you want a bright future, well then this is your party and these are your candidates. To all of you today that have joined us, and through you to so many that have volunteered on campaigns here in Moose Jaw and the surrounding area and across this province. You've put in countless hours during this campaign and the lead up to it. You are mobilizing Saskatchewan Party support, and you are mobilizing Saskatchewan Party voters, and I say thank you to you. Your hard work is paying off, but there is more work to do as we find our way through this voting week to Election Day next Monday. So keep getting voters to the poll. Keep putting the choice before the people that you see each and every day. And I know that if we do that, and if you do continue to do what you're doing, on October the 28th, on Election Day, it is going to be a very good day for the Saskatchewan Party and a very good day for our great province of Saskatchewan. God bless Saskatchewan, and thank you so very much for coming today. Seeing no questions, we'll be on our way to get people to the polls.
Everybody's all set? The Regina Police have said they did have an officer at Rosing's campaign office the day before, but there are still questions about, I guess, why your party jumped so quickly on that incident as to whether it had anything to do with some of the negative headlines that were coming up that day.
Of course not. Of course not. I mean, listen, this is a very serious situation that I would say. And what we did that day in answering questions in Prince Albert is to be very transparent with the people of Saskatchewan. And so I'll get to the timelines on what occurred there in a minute. But the fact of the matter is that there was some type of projectile that came in a campaign office. And my first concern, and I think everyone that is on this stage with me, or any leader or any candidate or any volunteer's concern, is for the safety of the people that are putting their foot forward to volunteer, to work in the great democratic process that we have. And they deserve to be safe. And we trust that the Regina Police Service will do a full and thorough investigation with respect to whatever this projectile is, and will affirm the safety of all of the volunteers in all of the campaign offices in 61 constituencies across this province. And that is my concern, and that was my concern from day one. With respect to the timelines, there was this was noticed on Monday afternoon, late Monday afternoon or early Monday evening this week. There was a police officer that was in the area that came in, talked to them, advised them that they thought it was a gunshot, and that they should call it in, of which they did. The next morning, I was asked a question on this in Prince Albert. I was fully transparent with the information that we have. I'm also fully transparent with the concerns I had about any type of action like this, whatever the projectile might be, on any campaign office across the province. We have, in this particular office, over 100 volunteers that are in that office from time to time. You look at the number of volunteers in this office here today, in addition to that, candidates, in addition to that, the media as well. And so we need to ensure that we are doing everything we can. We have confidence that the Regina Police Service will do so. To conduct a thorough investigation to ensure that people have the confidence that they'll be safe as they participate in that democratic process. After that question was posed to me in Prince Albert at about 10 o'clock that morning, later that day, the Regina Police Service had indicated that they had a person on site and didn't believe it to be a gunshot, but some type of projectile was directed at that campaign office. And I would just say this with respect to that campaign office or any campaign office. This can't be happening. We have a great opportunity in Saskatchewan, and I would say across Canada, to participate in a democratic process, and we need to ensure the safety of everyone that's involved. This particular campaign office is a very active one. At times, I visited this morning. I talked to the volunteers that met with the officer, the volunteers that called in on the officer's advice that were there, and they were also there this morning. But this is an office that has knocked over 40,000 doors in the lead up to the last week of the campaign. It's an office that at times has more than 100 volunteers in it, and each and every one of those volunteers deserve to feel safe when they go to volunteer in this process. Each and every volunteer here in the Moose Jaw office deserve to feel safe as they volunteer for whatever party and whatever candidate they choose, whether it be the Saskatchewan Party or another party. And we have confidence that in this particular incident that the Regina Police Service will conduct a thorough investigation and ensure that volunteers in our provincial election, municipal elections, even federal elections do feel safe to step out and do the work.
But the point is that you described them as gunshots before an investigation started.
No, we described them on what was informed of us by the Regina Police Service officer that visited that evening. So had I not said that, I wouldn't be fully transparent to the questions that were posed. I believe that we as leaders and parties should be as transparent with the information that we have. So I apologize for that, being transparent.
For sure, but a police officer was at the office, saw what they described as gunshots, and then didn't call it in, advised the campaign office to call it in themselves. I don't quite understand why that would be the case, because if the officer didn't do something more immediate, effectively there was a police officer at a campaign office. This officer believed that somebody had taken 2 shots at it in evening traffic in Regina, and then said, you should probably call it in. I don't quite understand that. I don't understand how that's the process.
Those are all questions not for me, I would say, but maybe for the chief of RPS or whatever that might be. We followed the advice we had. We were transparent with the information that we had each and every time. And Alec, you as well, and your organization, Post Media, I would hope have faith in the Regina Police Service in conducting a thorough investigation in this case, and ensuring the safety of not only the volunteers and candidates that are in a campaign office like this, but the media as well from time to time, as we are today.
But I suppose then why, you also characterized and kind of brought up images of political violence in the United States. I'm wondering if you regret that at all, because that doesn't quite seem to be what's occurring.
No, I think the comparisons that I made was with respect to the information that we had at that time in answering a media question and being as transparent as we can. It is disappointing. What the projectile is that was directed at this campaign. Did you go look at it?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, what do you think it is?
I'm not a police officer, I'm not doing the
Well, you could ask the police officer. Well, nor am I. Nor am I. So you have a lot of questions. I don't. Yeah, sorry, Adam, yeah.
Mr. Moe, just the police have said that they believe that there was some damage done around the neighborhood, that there's no information as to it being projected or targeted at the office, that it could have just been in the area there was some vandalism. Does that change your opinion of what happened there at all?
Well, I suspect, and I have faith, that the RPS will conduct a thorough investigation into this. I won't comment on what may or may not be with respect to whether or not the office is targeted. I know that this is a very, very active campaign. As I said, this is a campaign that has literally at times 100 volunteers in that office. I talked to one or two of them this morning because we were there quite early. It's an office that has knocked over 40,000 doors in what is a very tight seat. It's also an office that most certainly I think has attracted some attention of the community and whatnot. And so, our concern is this, and I have faith that the RPS will investigate this thoroughly, as regardless of whether it is a drive-by or a targeted act, it is an act with a projectile that was directed at two of them at a campaign office. And volunteers in that office, and I would say in any office across the 61 constituencies, deserve to feel safe in doing, volunteering for the great democratic process that we have. So whatever that is, I'm sure the answers will come out in a very thorough investigation. But the fact is a fact today.
Do you feel like this and the Conflict of Interest Commissioner's report and other issues have gotten you off the campaign message the last couple of days?
There's all sorts of things that come up throughout the time of a campaign, and what we see parties doing is putting forward their platforms and putting forward, what they view as being the future of our province before the people of Saskatchewan. Our platform most certainly is about, continuing to strengthen the Saskatchewan economy so that we can build a brighter future that includes our children and all youth, so that they have the opportunity to live here. That simply wasn't the case under the NDP. That's their record. And I would say that with the plan, the uncosted $3 billion plan that they put forward, it's their plan of decline, loss, and closure. It's going to be more of the same with them. Thankfully, we have a Saskatchewan party that wants to provide the opportunity for that brighter future for all. That ultimately, at the end of the day, are the platforms and the decision and the choice that Saskatchewan people have. There are things that happen day to day on any campaign, and I think things that happen day to day when you're outside of a campaign that governments, oppositions, and in this case, 6 or 7 different parties that are running need to answer to.
You mentioned the camps earlier. You mentioned the campaign, and you're feeling confident about where your vote is coming out. The polls are popping up. It's kind of rare for a poll to happen during a vote. We have a voting week that's new, but I know what you've said about polls. Do you have any concerns that they're showing the NDP closer to the Saskatchewan Party than they have in the recent past? Do you make anything of that?
The poll that we're watching is the results of each and every day's voting, and ultimately the results that are coming on October the 28th. And polls are polls, and media and other pundits are going to interpret them however they like. What we're going to do, and what most of the people in this room are going to do, the minute this press conference is done, is to go out and talk to Saskatchewan Party supporters in this community of Moose Jaw and the surrounding areas, and ask them to go vote for a brighter future for them and their children. The poll that matters. None of these polls that have been released matter. The poll that matters is on October the 28th. That's the one we're focused on as candidates. That's the one we're focused on in volunteers. And that's the one that we're going to be focused on here in about 15 minutes. And we'll probably have another job created by the time this press conference is done.
Question for Saskatoon. Shercom today announced they're laying off about 70 people. Are you satisfied with how this sort of tires it?
Well, again, with respect to the situation, what the government of Saskatchewan's involvement is setting up a regulatory environment for an industry-led board to recycle tires here in Saskatchewan. There's been much discussion around, some of the decisions that that board has made with respect to how those tires are being recycled and where they're being recycled. Some of them are being recycled in the community of Moose Jaw here today, and those jobs have been created here as well. But at the end of the day, the government's involvement is setting up that regulatory operational process for those tires to be recycled, and then we rely on an industry-appointed board to make the decisions that they do. And really beyond that, that's about my comments on it. With respect to where we go, we're always going to have conversations with that industry. They sell tires, whether it be on vehicles, farm implements, or whatever that is, and we feel they have a requirement to ensure that they have a robust recycling program in place here in the province. That's the primary goal of the entire scrap tire recycling program. It hasn't been without controversy, and it unfortunately seems to remain to still have some controversy around it.
The NDP were critical today about the cost of hats for the Marshal Service. I know it's a minor point, but I think
Yeah.
it's up to $500
Yeah.
or something.
I'm surprised they have time to be looking at hat procurement. I thought they were entirely focused on doorbells and how that was going to keep our communities safe. Listen, our commitment to safer communities and neighborhood is, one that I would say is really focused on two items. The first is on the very source of what is creating higher crime, higher levels of vandalism in our communities across this nation, but also in Saskatchewan, and that's the addition of 500 intensive recovery spaces, led by Tim McLeod, as he was our Minister of Mental Health and Addictions. And I would again applaud Tim for the effort, the laser-like focus. And if you are truly striving to create safer communities and neighborhood, recovery has to be the focus of that. And then bringing people towards those recovery opportunities through access, whether that be through our complex needs shelters, whether that be through the urgent care centers, creating these access points. Second to that, it does require enforcement. It does require additional enforcement. That's why we have added, since 2011, are committed to adding over 300 RCMP officers across the province. That's why we have committed recently to over 100 municipal officers, including additional officers coming into the city of Moose Jaw. And that's why we are adding a provincial marshal service, which is about 70 officers, but are going to be there to support those very officers, our family members often that are municipal police officers in Moose Jaw, but also to support all of our other municipal police officers, as well as our RCMP forces in community after community across this province. Over 500 recovery beds and over 500 police officers. That's our commitment to safer communities and neighborhoods across this province. And yes, they're going to need hats, and I suspect that people are buying their own doorbell cameras, and that'll be used in evidence by the police officers that we're providing, that the NDP would cut and provide those doorbell cameras in some way, thinking that that's going to keep a community and a family safe. It just isn't.
And the feds are bypassing the province on funding for homelessness. They're going directly to work with the cities.
Funding is positive. And I would say we're appreciative of the funding into this space. Again, I spoke of some of the root causes of increased crime and vandalism and things in our community. Some of the root causes of homelessness is the very same drugs that are available, and they're not the drugs of yesterday. The drugs that are available in Canada and in Saskatchewan, unfortunately, are nothing short of poison. And those recovery opportunities and the access to those recovery beds are paramount for us. In community after community in Saskatchewan. I would say as a government, the challenge that we have with this poison in our communities is in our communities. It's not a community away anymore. It's in the very communities where we live, and all too often it's a friend, a community member, or a family member that is being impacted by this poison that is being made available. And that is creating some of the homelessness challenges that are there. And so we appreciate the funding provided by the federal government, and if we are successful and have the honor to form government on October the 28th, we will work with the federal government and our municipalities in ensuring that the investments that we are making as a province, whether it be the additional temporary shelter beds that we are adding into the province, whether it be the complex needs beds that are really providing a transition point for those that unfortunately may be living a life with addictions or entered a life of addictions, to provide them an opportunity and a gateway to a recovery bed and a gateway to a better life. And we owe them as a government that opportunity. They may not always take it, but we're going to ensure that we provide it if we have the honor to form government on October the 28th in every way, shape, and form we can. And so we would look forward to a discussion, a liaisoning the municipal leadership we have, and there's municipal elections across this province, and the federal government, whether it be this administration or the next, on how we can ensure that we are layering the provincial funding alongside the municipal funding, alongside the federal funding, so that it is benefiting the opportunities of our friends, family members, community members that unfortunately have entered this challenging life of maybe addictions, maybe mental health challenges, but ultimately have found themselves homeless. So welcome the funding, appreciative of the funding, look forward to, if we have the honor of forming government, representing Saskatchewan people in ensuring that funding is additional to all that's happening already today.
Why didn't your government respond to the letter from the federal government? I think you had 12 days between when the letter was sent and when it was.
Well, I think there is some discussions, maybe not an official response, but there will be discussions that are happening, I suspect, between the ministry in Saskatchewan as well as the federal ministry on how we can liaison and what we are already doing at the provincial level and how that may work. I won't comment on whether there's a little bit of politics at play here with this coming out in Saskatchewan being named in this, but I would say this. If we have the honor of forming government on October the 28th, yes, we have many opportunities where we have points of disagreement with the federal government, but we also have many opportunities when we work alongside the federal government to ensure that we can work together to benefit Saskatchewan people. And in this case, Saskatchewan people who unfortunately have found themselves without a home. We have a number of provincial programs. We know and have worked closely with our municipalities on location of shelters and such, and we would welcome the federal funding and the federal government to that conversation so that we can ensure that all that each of us are doing at the different levels of government is additive and providing an additional opportunity. And so, you know, in the lead up to an election, if there's a letter that's wrote to a ministry or a minister and it's not responded to, you can have the commitment from myself. If we have the honor to form government, we certainly will be engaging on not only this file, but any other files that may have popped up during the election campaign that we were in.
Gary Graywell is defending himself after the commissioner's report. Is that appropriate or should it just be taken?
Well, he's a private citizen, so Gary Graywell can do whatever he chooses.
How do you assure the public that what happened there won't happen again if you form government?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say those assurances were already given some time ago. If you had listened to and interviewed the minister at the time and some of the changes that they had made in their procurement process, the ministry had done a deep dive on the procurement process, and it changed a number of the initiatives and a number of the parameters on how they are procuring, how the Ministry of Social Services is procuring short stay hotel rooms if they should need it. So I think Saskatchewan people can be assured that, you know, that process has already taken place and the new procurement practices are already in operation and have been for quite some time.
What about in a wider sense?
Pardon me?
What about in a wider sense, not just when it comes to hotels, but within your government as a whole? There's another candidate who is facing two separate.
There's a number likely of potential investigations that you might see the conflict of interest have a look at. Listen, I would just say this more broadly. The Conflict of Interest Commissioner is there to work alongside and really to protect MLAs. And I would say this, you know, as we move into potentially whatever a governing or opposition caucus, and there's two parties at the polls say can form government here today, that the expectation of myself as a leader of Saskatchewan Party members is that they are in compliance with the Conflict of Interest Act. And if they find themselves that they do have some questions around that compliance, that they take the recommendations from the Conflict of Interest Commissioner and they get into compliance immediately. That's the expectation, always has been, and is be very, very clear as we move into a new environment with some new MLAs and such. I think that would be everybody's expectation as leader or as an MLA in their respective caucuses. The Conflict of Interest Commissioner is there to work with MLAs so that MLAs can disclose, you know, their homes and any, mutual funds, things of that nature. And certainly where there may be questions, a Conflict of Interest Commissioner can provide advice to ensure that MLAs are in compliance with the Act, which is the goal and it is the expectation of myself as a leader. So, moving forward, that is going to be very, very clear, and I would have hoped that it always was. The fact that the Conflict of Interest Commissioner may be having a look at some past whatever, that's fine. That's why he's there. But he is there to protect and to help MLAs from all sides of the House with, the things that they and their family.
Will there be any penalties for Mr. Greenwell when he does the house?
Well, I'm not going to preclude anything. I think you're precluding that we're going to form government, and I won't preclude anything with respect to what might happen after October the 28th. We're entirely focused as candidates, as volunteers here in Moose Jaw, Prince Albert yesterday, but across this province, entirely focused on mobilizing the Saskatchewan Party supportive vote, and we're very, very, bullish on what we see happen in the first days of this election week. But we're very, very focused on getting that vote out to the polls. We believe that the value proposition that we have put forward, which is to continue to strengthen the Saskatchewan economy so that we can build a brighter future for all that live here today, and I think most importantly for those that we hope will live here tomorrow, which are our children, whether you're an Indigenous Canadian living in Saskatchewan, whether you're like my family that has been here for a number of generations, or whether you be new, a new Canadian living in the province of Saskatchewan. What we want to do is provide an opportunity for your children to make a choice to stay here, to build a career here, and to raise their family here. And we're well on our way to doing that in the last decade and a half, with over 250,000 people that are living in Saskatchewan. Close to 100,000 of them are benefiting from programs like the Graduate Retention Program, which has just been expanded. We have a bright future in Saskatchewan, and it's a Saskatchewan Party that is going to support that opportunity for not only the next 4 years, but set the platform for decades into the future.